Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so doing laundry, folding clothes, and I just said, you know what, random. Let me just turn on the camera. I don't have any. I'm not even done folding and putting sheets on the bed, but I don't care. Just wanted to turn it on and just talk. The Los Angeles Lakers, Luka the Don. I saw photos of him, of course, in Men's Health magazine. That's going around. He looks good, man. He's putting in the work. I listened to a couple of podcasts, Dallas podcasts actually, and they were essentially saying he does this every summer. This is the same old thing. The question is how is he going to handle his diet later on? It's not about whether or not he puts in the work in the offseason. Dallas fans are used to him doing this. The question is, in that little 3-4 week period between when training camp is about to begin and Eurobasket ends, is he going to revert back to the ways that they're used to him doing, which is eating poorly after doing all that work throughout the course of the regular the off season? Because he'll look good in June or July and August, but then will gain weight by October again. And look, I'm the type of person where I grew up eating poorly and didn't have any exercise habits. Always had it in my mind that doing exercise was such a tall task. I wasn't particularly athletic on top of being out of shape in general. It was hard for me to work into the equation exercising regularly. I didn't start developing that until I was about 18, 19 years old. And even after getting myself into a space where I was in shape, it took me being a part of a very strenuous home workout regimen, something called Insanity. When I was like 26 years old, 25 years old, somebody gave me the link to this workout and gave me all the videos for this workout. And it put me on such a strict schedule that it worked a certain level of consistency into my equation. Even though I was used to working out and going to the gym, and I had stints in my life where I go to the gym, I still ate poorly. So anytime I take time away from the gym, it will go right back out of shape. So it was two things that I think Luka's going to have to work into his equation. It's a commitment to diet, which it sounds like he's committed to right now, that has to continue. And then it has to be a prolonged, structured schedule that he sticks to, and he's going to have to learn to overcome the days where he doesn't feel like working out, he's tired or whatever. You got to get through within that prolonged schedule, those days a lot of times, to really work into your habits the consistency of working out. Because if you don't get those two things worked into your equation, you getting out of shape is inevitable. The food and the inconsistency of your habits working out is going to put you back into a space where once you exit that era where you're working out hard, your body's going to go flabby again. It's what I've been dealing with all my life until I understood that the diet needed to be consistent. And of course, if you guys follow me, you know I have dietary issues at this point. I'm allergic to a lot of stuff, so it's forced me to eating better. And now, since I've been on this workout journey for over now to almost 22 years, those habits are worked into the equation. So I never go too long without working out. I never allow myself to get fully out of shape for too long, because I always end up falling back into those habits or continue to consistently work out. But you got to get through those days that you don't want to work out enough times. You got to win those battles within your mind enough times to work that second nature, I'm going to stay in shape and it's not a chore to get in shape, trait into your equation. I was listening to who was it I was listening to? Some Laker analyst. I can't think of his name right now, but I often refer to him. And he was essentially saying that he wonders if Luka's not going to be deterred by the idea that the Lakers are not going all in for this year, despite all the work that Luka's putting into his body. But I would say to him that people who understand what's required to have a prolonged career aren't allowing their mind to exit the intention of being as consistent as they're developing right now. In other words, whether the Lakers are doing the best for themselves as it pertains to going all in or doing whatever they got to do for their future or not, should not be even aligned with his motivation to stick to what he's doing as it pertains to his body. Do you see what I'm saying? And those who are interested or are serious about taking care of themselves, it's not that you want to work out for a couple of months and go all in for a couple of months so that you could be in shape this season. It's about developing habits for the rest of your life as a lifestyle. I often talk about, like, do we shower only for a certain period of time when we want to be around people that we're mostly, trying to impress? Do we brush our teeth only for like 6 months and then find ourselves satisfied with our teeth being clean and don't return to it? Like, that's not how to exercise. And wellness is something that should be practiced just as consistently as hygiene. Because if you don't take care of yourself in these areas, your body will deteriorate no different. Now, we don't have that culture necessarily in America to do that. We will join the gym, we'll stay in the era where we're working out, we'll keep eating the poor foods that are pushed down our throats in our various regions of this country, and then we'll find ourselves falling out of shape after a while and just being unhappy with ourselves after having a six-pack for a certain time. But that's not how you actually take care of yourself. And if you're an athlete, that should not be your mentality or your motivation. This is not a periodical, isolated, I'm going to take care of myself right now kind of thing. It's if I want to have a good life for the rest of my life, these are the habits I'm trying to establish to where they become second nature. Regardless of what other people are doing around me, this is what I need to do to stay at the tip top of my shape throughout the course of my career, and then following my career so that I can have a prolonged, healthy life to take care of the things that matter to me. And Luka is a father at this point, and this isn't just about basketball. This is about his lifestyle and how long he wants to live. And if you start taking care of yourself and developing those second nature habits that I've been talking about in your 20s, by the time you reach your 30s and your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, you will have the habits necessary to prolong your life, to get the most out of your energy as it starts to naturally dwindle, and ultimately give yourself a chance to be able to bend down and pick up your grandkids and maybe even be alive to see your great-grandkids if you start developing these habits and you stick to them. And those who don't, less likely to see that type of success in life. And so while a lot of the motivating factors for people are based on, people lighting the fire underneath them, obviously Luka went through a tremendous experience of motivation, having been traded, and that trade costing him $100 million. People haven't seemed to say about his conditioning and smearing his name in that regard. I think this is an especially important summer for him to prove those people wrong. But if his intentions are not to keep these habits, or if he's only planning on doing this for a certain amount of time, then he will prove those people right. And they will have been right for moving on from him and not paying him the $330 or $40 million that he ultimately felt he deserved. I would tell Luka, if the point is to only get in shape this summer, you're missing the point entirely. The most important thing for you to do is to commit to a lifetime of fitness, not just for basketball, but so that you can have a prolonged and healthy life. Because drinking beers, sitting on your backside, eating poor foods, and allowing weight to come onto your body will sure you out of here sooner than you probably be comfortable with as a father. And so this is the time in a lot of men's lives, the 26, 25 years old, when they start understanding that my body's starting to slow down a little bit. Father time has begun to approach me, and I need to respond in kind, or my prime will not last very long. And I think Luka's starting to understand that. Plus, it's an obvious factor when you become the superstar of the Los Angeles Lakers, and the existing superstar who's here happens to be LeBron James. People are calling you fat. You're coming in here essentially saying this is going to be my franchise. And you got a 40-year-old guy who's the best conditioned athlete, arguably in basketball, running up and down the floor next to you, exposing exactly how out of shape you are in comparison to him. Now, we know he's a special specimen, and he's been taking care of himself in a way that is second nature, so to speak, since he was a teenager. So he's never been out of shape, and he's not going to be out of shape. He's a different type of breed to begin with. And he puts in the obsessive amount of work to assure he gets the most out of what is already a different type of genetics. So when you have to be the 26-year-old guy running next to him, talking about taking over the team that he's the star on, you'd be damned if you continue to run out of shape for too long. You look crazy coming back to the Lakers next to that dude not in shape. You look nuts. Now, getting here in mid-season, you're already out of shape. You're hurt on top of that. Nobody's expecting you to drop pounds in 5 minutes. But to come into the following season, in his year 23 season, when you're 26 years old and he's running up and down the floor quicker than you, no, that cannot be. And so I think that's an extreme motivating factor to say, yeah, y'all saw me look bad next to Bron as it pertains to my conditioning for a half a season. But in the off season, from here on out, y'all ain't never gonna see me like that next to this dude no more. I'm gonna be in a better shape next year because I'll be damned if I look fat next to him. You know what I mean? So that's I think is a real motivating factor. I think a lot of people on the Dallas side of things are wondering why he couldn't do this for them. Well, there were several reasons why he wasn't doing this for y'all. One, because he needed this to propel him into being motivated to do so. You guys weren't motivating him. You weren't. And it ain't saying it's nobody's fault. It just, the circumstances were, he had the franchise in his hands. Everybody was doing everything for him. And he was in an immature space where there was no motivation for him to get in shape. This embarrassed him to no end and forced him to wake up. I don't know that he comes into this offseason the same way. In fact, I'm pretty positive he doesn't. I'm pretty positive that he approaches a Dallas Maverick 2024-2025 offseason probably the same way he's approached the rest of them. Pretty comfortable, knowing he got $330-40 million. He probably never actually has that wake-up call to get him in this type of motivating shape. It took this to shame him into growing up in this regard, I believe. And so I don't know that it would have ever been possible for him to do this for you, Dallas fans. I'm just being honest with you. I don't think you don't create this motivation out of nothing. It requires a great deal of shame, a great deal of financial loss, and a great deal of smearing of his name and all these different things that come together to make him say, you know what, I'm ready to change my life just to prove these people wrong. There's no prove these people wrong factor in place, and I think that's one of the most important motivating factors for him getting in shape. So that's what my opinion is. I don't think that it was possible for him to be motivated enough to take the steps that he's taking right now. I mean, you talk about the type of regimen he's taking on. He's cut out. He's doing 2 a days or 3 a days, I think they said. He's only eating at certain times. He's taken on a great deal of carbs and stuff, but removed sugar from his life. Like, he's doing all types of like over the top stuff to lose weight, gain muscle, and burn. If he keeps this up, if he sticks to this regimen for the rest of his career, he will, in theory, without injuries, turn into a different specimen of person as it pertains to his physical nature. He's going to get into shape that he's never been in his life. And I don't know if he can keep this up, especially freshly coming off the habits that he's had over the last years and a half, 3 years. But I have seen some people turn it around forever. In fact, I got a good friend of mine who just, throughout the course of a journey of being overweight and out of shape, went through some very serious health scares that kind of changed her way of approaching her lifestyle. And she found a passion for working out. She found her passion in working out after being overweight for the majority of her life, and ended up becoming a personal trainer and a health professional, and is still that to this day. And you know what I mean? So, like, I've seen people turn it around, but not everybody can do that after having habits like Luka's. But not too many people have the motivating factor to change their diet and lifestyle, like he and my friend were both presented in their respective lives. It took something very drastic in both of those cases to turn them around. Question is, will Luka stay on this path, or will he revert back to who he's always been after getting to a space where he's comfortable again? That's only he's going to be able to figure that out. But I think this is a good enough motivator for him to clearly be to clearly be intentional on taking this to the maximum. And I think he'll be pleased with the results. God willing, he'll have good health, so that the work that he's putting in doesn't force him into any setbacks that kind of send his mind into a space of sadness. Because that's what usually sends people in a spiral. And stuff happens in life that usually affects the emotions, and then has people reverting back to old eating habits, a down way of feeling about themselves, and that trickles into how they take care of themselves if they don't spend enough time developing those habits before that event. So, not to speak in any ill way of Luka, but that would be the type of thing that I expect would send him spiraling. If something happened in marriage or something like that, that could send a guy into eating ice cream at night instead of being consistent in this workout process. But if anything short of something like that, I would imagine that he's going to love what his body feels like when he hits the basketball floor again. And he's going to understand that the work that he put in is going to be a direct correlation to how good he feels on the basketball floor. And that's really what it comes out to. His reaction timing is going to get significantly quicker. Some people say he's going to have a hard time pushing people around because he ain't going to have that weight on him. He'll make up for it in different areas if that is the case. He'll make up for it in different areas. And mind you this, you don't get weaker in this case. The weight will be lost, but the strength is gaining. So that's something that I think can be, it's hard for me to gauge. I really don't know how that equates. An athlete would have to help me with that. But what I can say is, for every bit of what he's not going to be able to do in pushing people around, he's going to gain in speed and quickness. And for a guy like Luka Doncic who stops and goes, his strength on the basketball floor starts with his incredible stop and start ability, his incredible ability to decelerate on a moment's notice. I think he's going to love what his body's going to be able to do now that he's taken some of that weight off of it once again. And he remembers how he was in shape when his rookie season. He looked like a great athlete at the time. I'm sure he had that body in Spain as well. So he knows how it feels to be in shape. He just kind of lost a lot of that, and the motivation wasn't there. And I think the motivation was not in place. As to where you move to Los Angeles, you're going to change your diet because that's just the culture of the city. And I think that's a real thing, man. Dallas, I don't know, man. I've never lived in Dallas. I've only been there a couple times on layovers. But I'd imagine they eat good down south. Same thing I said about Zion going to New Orleans. You can't go to New Orleans when you have weight issues. And you don't have the discipline to eat properly. You're going to eat what's around you, and it's going to make you out of shape. I mean, it just is what it is. Los Angeles ain't that city. We have bad places to eat, but the culture of the people around him is juicers and people who are going to be gymming 3 times a day. It's all about looking good in pictures and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's another motivating factor for a guy like Luka Doncic. You lose weight, you feel better. You find yourself to be fitting in a bit better in this Los Angeles market. You know what I mean? And so, he's going to be able to get endorsement deals and stuff like that maybe he would not have gotten. Maybe even modeling deals, that kind of thing. It's a real thing when you start losing weight, start taking care of your body. You know what I'm saying? 2-3 years from now, Luka might be GQ of the year. That kind of thing is a real thing when you're the superstar of the Los Angeles Lakers and you're in the best shape of your life. So he's going to open the door for himself to make a lot more money off the court just by looking the way he's going to look when he takes care of himself, gets himself in shape. That goes without saying. And look good, feel good, man. It just is what it is. I would expect that Luka is going to see this be something that he wants to see in the mirror for the rest of his NBA career. I can tell you that right now. He's going to want to look like that forever. He's going to want to, especially in this city. So, yeah, man, hopefully he's not looking at this as just him going through a phase or picking up habits that he ultimately plans on dropping when the motivation, when the honeymoon phase is over with, you know what I'm saying? Because that, as I've already mentioned, would then prove Nico and everybody in Dallas right. And that's the bigger picture for Luka. It's not about whether or not you could spend a summer getting in shape. They all expect you're going to do that. The question is when you have some downtime, are you going to sit down and drink a beer? That was what they were betting against. Are you going to sit down and put these habits down once you've made your point that you can get in shape? It's not about getting in shape. It's about respecting the professionalism that is professional sports. Your body is your money maker. If you want people to invest $300 and $400 million into it, you got to take it as seriously as you want them to take it. And you understanding that it's about gaining a discount against you, and the leverage of that, it for you is proving yourself to not only respect that you can do great things while out of shape, but that your leverage is to remain in shape regardless of how well you play. And a guy like LeBron James has done that his whole career. He's always been able to outplay people on the basketball floor, but he always took care of himself more so than any of his peers, and that always left him in a position to be top tier. Luka, as he matures into this business going forward, will understand that his position as the best player does not make him exempt from people trying to get discounts on his contracts. And this is exactly what he ran into. They had the excuse to not pay him $100 million, not because he wasn't producing on the basketball floor, but because they had the excuse of saying he was fat, for which to be able to move on from him. And that's really what it is. If they don't have that leverage against you, they're going to have to pay you all your money. They don't have the excuse to move on from you, and you don't want to leave them that excuse. So that's what I would say to Luka Don. As long as you're taking care of yourself, I'm confident that the Laker organization will pay you every coin. But if you don't, and if you revert back to the way that you were, you could find yourself being traded again under the same pretenses for the same reasons. And I just don't think Luka ever wants to go through that again. He's too great of a player to ever go through that again. And this is a cutthroat business, and they don't care how good you are. They want to know that they can get a discount on you for whatever excuse they can use. And so that's what I would tell Luka Don, man. It's a cutthroat business, bro. The more you pour into yourself, the less likely they have the excuses to cheat you out your money anymore. Real talk. So all of this should be motivating for him, man. He should understand this at this point. I'm excited about him signing a contract with our team on the 2nd of this upcoming month. He's in New York right now. He looks healthy. He's on the Jordan brand promotional tour. And he's getting a great reception from the folks in New York. I think he's going to be in, I think Chicago's the second leg of that tour, and then LA's the final one. I believe that's how that works. I'm not sure if it's Chicago or not. I think it's Chicago, but that's where he's at right now. And then he'll be starting up Eurobasket thereafter, after he signs his contract. I believe that comes up in a couple of weeks. I don't know how those games will be televised or what have you, but I'm going to try to watch as much of our guy Luka and root him on as much as I'm able to, or Lord knows what time them games are going to be because it's in Europe. But, you know, at the end of the day, I hope he feels happy and welcome here. I hope he feels motivated to not only establish these habits for this era of his life, but for the rest of his career and the rest of his life. Because the better shape he's in, the more comfortable he's going to be in life on and off the court. And that's really what it's about, man. So that's what I wanted to say, man. He looks good. I would say it's always uncomfortable for me to use the words "I'm proud of you." I don't know why. I just never really felt comfortable saying that to people that I don't know or what have you. But that's the sentiment, man. I think, you know, the challenge that I put on this channel for him when he first got here was to do exactly what he's doing right now. And although he hasn't accomplished all that I think he can accomplish in that regard, he's well underway, and the commitment is obvious. So he's doing a great job. and we are proud of Luka here on this channel. And we look to him to continue to take this challenge and not find himself satisfied with his body getting into a certain space, because it can go back the other way if you stop doing what you've been doing. This type of commitment is ultimately what is going to work for Luka, the Don. This is what works. Doing things the other way doesn't. So that's pretty much what I got to say about that, man. That's where I wanted to leave this conversation. Just give Luka his credit. Tell him he's doing a great job. Keep it up, man. You're meeting the expectations of us for this offseason, and we just want you to understand that the more you pour into this, the better you're going to look, the more comfortable you're going to feel on the basketball floor, and the more likely you're going to recover from injuries or not face them as often. And one off season of this is great. 3, 4, 5, 6 straight off seasons of this is what really turns you into something else, man. Rips your body up. You deserve that, Luka. You deserve to see yourself get in the type of shape that not only one off season like this can do for you, but changing your lifestyle for 7 and 8 years of your career can do for you, man. You commit to it that way, and you're gonna love what comes of it. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.